Neptune was found because something invisible was pulling on a planet nobody could see. And the Book of Enoch, written more than 2,000 years before anyone pointed a telescope at the sky, describes something sitting at the far edge of everything, past the last gate, past the last star, and it is not a planet. I'm John Blackwell. I've been circling this one for weeks because it forced me to hold two completely different centuries in my head at the same time, the 19th and the 3rd century BC, and the overlap is the part I can't put down. I want to tell you about a volcano. It sits on a moon orbiting Neptune, and in 1991 the people in charge of naming things on that moon called it Leviathan. I'll come back to why that name on that moon around that planet matters more than it should, but first I need to show you how Neptune was found, because the method is half the argument. And I need to show you what the Book of Enoch says is waiting at the end of the world, in a place the text describes as having no sky above it and no ground below it. Because when I put those two things side by side, I got a collision I haven't been able to walk away from. Before I get into the text, if you want the Ethiopian Bible, fully uncensored version, all 88 books, you can check out website. And also if you want personal readings, it's on the website too. Both links are in the description or scan this QR code. And if you want more videos like this, please like and subscribe. It helps us a lot more than you'd think. Alright, Neptune. Here is the thing that most people skip. Every planet you learned about in school, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, was known to the Babylonians, the Egyptians, the Greeks, the Romans, and every civilization that looked up at night for the last 4,000 years. They were visible. You could stand outside with nothing but your eyes and track them moving across the sky, and people did, century after century. Neptune is different. You cannot see Neptune without a telescope. It is too far, too faint, too deep in the dark. No one in the ancient world ever observed it. No Babylonian scribe logged it. No Egyptian priest tracked it across the ceiling of a tomb. No one named it. It does not appear in any star catalogue, any zodiac, any calendar, any mythology before the year 1846. So how was it found? A French mathematician named Urbain Le Verrier and a British astronomer named John Couch Adams both noticed that Uranus, the planet discovered in 1781, was drifting. Its orbit was off. Something massive, something completely invisible was pulling on it from further out. They both did the math independently, calculated where that invisible body had to be, and on September 23rd, 1846, a German astronomer named Johann Galle pointed the Berlin Observatory's telescope at the exact coordinates Le Verrier had given him. Neptune was within 1 degree of where the math said it would be. Found not because anyone saw it, but because they measured what it was doing to something else. That discovery method is going to matter for what I want to show you in Enoch, because the entire argument I'm building depends on something exerting influence without being directly visible. A hidden body revealed only by how it moves the things around it. I sat with that for a long time before I understood why it mattered. Now, what is actually out there? In August 1989, NASA's Voyager 2 flew past Neptune. It is the only spacecraft that has ever gone there. The mission planners had one window to get the trajectory right, and if they missed it, nobody alive today would have gotten another chance. What Voyager sent back was not what anyone expected. The winds on Neptune are the fastest ever recorded in the solar system. Over 2,000 kilometers per hour, supersonic. The atmosphere is hydrogen, helium, and methane, and deep inside, the pressure is so extreme that planetary scientists believe methane molecules break apart and carbon crystallizes into solid diamonds. Diamonds falling like rain toward the core of the planet. That's not speculation, that is the leading model in planetary science right now, and on top of all of that, Neptune puts out heat. It radiates roughly 2.5 times more energy than it receives from the sun. Nobody has fully explained why. Something inside that planet is generating heat that, by every surface calculation, should not be there. Those details are strange on their own, but it's the moon that changes the conversation. Neptune's largest moon is called Triton. It's an oddity. It orbits backward. Every other large moon in the solar system follows the direction of its planet's rotation. Triton doesn't. It goes the opposite way. The current understanding is that Triton was captured, pulled in from the Kuiper belt by Neptune's gravity early in the solar system's history, and it has been spiraling slowly inward ever since. In roughly 3.5 billion years, it will cross too close, and Neptune's gravity will tear it apart. Voyager 2 photographed Triton's surface. The temperature was 38 Kelvin, negative 235 Celsius. That is colder than the surface of Pluto. Colder than anything you or I will ever touch or see or have any frame of reference for. And despite being one of the coldest objects we've ever measured, Triton was geologically active. The surface was young, fresh. Something was resurfacing it from below. Ice volcanoes. Not lava, not fire. Water, ammonia, methane erupting through the frozen surface and freezing instantly when they hit the vacuum. These are called cryovolcanoes, or ice volcanoes. The word shifts depending on who's writing about it, but the eruptions are confirmed. One of the largest volcanic structures on Triton is a caldera, about 80 kilometers across, with a dome rising roughly 400 meters from the center. In 1991, the International Astronomical Union gave it a name. They called it Leviathan Patera, Leviathan. The sea monster from Job, from Psalms, from Isaiah. The creature that appears in the Book of Enoch, chapter 60, female dwelling in the abyss of the ocean. That Leviathan, its name is sitting on a volcano on a backward moon, orbiting a planet named after the Roman god of the sea. If you grew up reading any of those texts, I'd like to know whether that name landing there did to you what it did to me. Now, I need to be careful here because there is a version of this argument that collapses the second you press on it, and there is a version that I think holds together better than it should. The version that collapses goes like this. The Book of Enoch predicted Neptune. It didn't. Neptune was invisible to everyone in the ancient world. No one in the 3rd century BC was writing about an ice giant 30 astronomical units from the sun. The authors behind 1st Enoch were working with what they could see with their own eyes. The sun, the moon, 5 lights that wandered across the night sky, and the fixed stars behind them. And this is where I need you to slow down with me, because something I learned during the research on this video changes everything that follows. The Greeks had a term for those 5 wandering lights. They called them asteres planetae, wandering stars, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn. Every other point of light in the sky moved together in a fixed pattern, rising and setting on schedule. These 5 did not. They would slow down, appear to stop, drift backward for weeks at a time, then start moving forward again. We know now that this is an optical illusion caused by the planets orbiting the sun at different speeds. When Earth passes a slower outer planet, that planet looks like it's moving backward against the stars. Retrograde motion, pure geometry. The ancient world did not have that explanation. And here's what people miss. In the ancient world, the universe was not just physical, it was morally organized. Every moving body in the sky had a job. The fixed stars were obedient. They followed their assignments. They rose on time, they set on time. Every night, the same pattern. The 5 wandering stars broke that pattern. They stopped. They reversed, they showed up late to their own posts. And in a cosmos where physical behavior and moral behavior were the same thing, where how a star moved was indistinguishable from how it chose to behave, breaking rank wasn't a curiosity, it was rebellion. Deliberate, visible, punishable rebellion. That is precisely what 1st Enoch describes. Chapter 80 warns that the leaders of the stars will change their orbits and their duties, and they will fail to appear at their designated seasons. The Book of Jude, centuries later, picks up the exact same language. Jude calls certain people wandering stars using that Greek phrase, asteres planetae, and says the deepest eternal darkness has been reserved for them. The Apostle Peter says the same thing differently. Angels who sinned cast down into chains of darkness. If your tradition taught you that stars were just gas and light, I'd be curious to know when you first encountered the idea that the ancient world treated them as persons who could choose to disobey. The reason I'm building all of this out for you is because the Book of Enoch doesn't stop at calling planets rebels. It tells you where the rebels end up. 1 Enoch chapter 18 is the passage I keep returning to, and it reads like nothing else I've encountered in the Bible or outside it. Enoch is taken on a guided tour past the edge of the physical world. He arrives at a place the text describes as having no firmament above it, no earth beneath it, no water upon it, no birds. A waste and horrible place, and in that void he sees 7 stars like great burning mountains. The angel with him explains, "This is the end of heaven and earth, and it has become a prison for the stars and the host of heaven. They are bound there because they did not come forth at their appointed times. God was angry with them. They are held for 10,000 years." Chapter 21 repeats the image: 7 stars, bound, burning. 2 separate passages describing the same location, the same sentence. A cosmic jail at the edge of the map for things that moved when they were told to stay still. I have not found a consensus on what the 7 stars represent. Some scholars read them as the 5 visible planets with the sun and moon added in. Others connect them to the Pleiades, which carry binding mythology in Mesopotamian tradition too. The identifications differ, and I haven't seen anyone land with full confidence. I'm telling you that because what I say next depends on you knowing where the firm ground stops and my reading begins. This is the section I rewrote 3 times, not because the material was complicated, because the honest version of my read requires me to give you the counter-argument before I give you mine. So let me give it to you. The names are modern, all of them. Neptune was named by 19th century astronomers following classical Roman convention. The same way Uranus was named, the same way every moon in the system was named. Triton was named after the son of the Greek sea god Poseidon. The International Astronomical Union named the caldera Leviathan Patera in 1991 because features on Triton follow a sea mythology theme. It is a naming pattern adopted by committee in a conference room, and it is not a prophecy. I accept that fully. The correlation between the name Neptune, the name Leviathan, and the Book of Enoch is an accident of modern naming conventions. There is no ancient conspiracy linking a 3rd century BC scribe to a 20th century nomenclature committee. But here is where my reading starts, and I want you to hear me say clearly that this is mine. The Book of Enoch describes, at the absolute farthest point of the cosmos, beyond the last gate, beyond the last wall, a place with no sky and no ground. A void, something burning inside it, something bound inside it. Something placed there because it refused to follow the rules the rest of the universe followed. Neptune sits at the outer edge of the major planetary system. It was found not by observation, but by its invisible gravitational pull on something else. It generates more heat than it receives. Its largest moon orbits in the wrong direction, captured, dragged in, held in a decaying spiral. And on the surface of that moon sits an 80-kilometer wide volcanic structure named after a creature the Book of Enoch places in an abyss. I'm not saying the Book of Enoch describes Neptune. I'm saying the Book of Enoch describes a location, and when we finally reach that location with a spacecraft 4 billion miles from home, what we found there behaves the way the text said it would behave. That collision is mine, I built it. The text did not make that connection, and neither did the astronomers. I did. I want to know whether you think that collision belongs only to me, or whether the writers had access to something we have not accounted for yet. And I want to be precise about what I'm not saying. I'm not saying ancient Jewish scribes had secret knowledge of the outer solar system. I'm not saying the Book of Enoch is a science textbook with a religious cover on it. I've read enough of these texts to know they were written by people trying to make sense of suffering and order, and the gap between how the world should work and how it does. That's theology. I respect it as theology. But what I can't dismiss is the architecture, the shape of the description. Because what I keep circling, and I have been circling it since I first sat with the Voyager, to telemetry data and the RH Charles translation open at the same time on the same desk, is the possibility that a group of Jewish scribes, working in the 3rd century BC with no telescope, no spacecraft, and no mathematics, beyond what Babylon had already handed them, described the architecture of a boundary in terms that either accidentally or very much not accidentally match the only boundary humanity has physically reached, photographed, and still cannot fully explain. Remember the discovery. Leverrier never saw Neptune, he calculated its effect on something nearby. That is how the prison works in chapter 18. Enoch doesn't walk there, he is carried past the edge by an angel, and what he sees when he arrives is defined entirely by what's absent. No firmament, no ground, no water, no life. The prison is described by its pull on everything around it, not by its own surface. Whether the Enochic authors had a source we haven't recovered, or whether this is a coincidence so precisely layered it mimics intention, I don't have a position I'm willing to put my name on. I've shown you what the text says, I've shown you what Voyager found. I've told you where the gap between those two things sits. I am not going to fill that gap with confidence I haven't earned. If you were raised in a tradition that kept the Book of Enoch out of your Bible, I'd like to know whether anyone ever mentioned chapter 18 to you, even once, or whether this is the first time you're hearing what's actually written there. The text gives you a calendar that runs on perfect math, 52 weeks, no remainder. It gives you stars that rebel by refusing to keep their assigned times, and it gives you a prison at the edge of everything for the ones that broke rank. Neptune gives you a planet invisible to the naked eye, a moon that orbits the wrong way, and an 80-kilometer volcano named after a biblical sea monster on the coldest surface we have ever photographed. This channel exists because these texts deserve to be read by the people who were never handed them. If that matters to you, subscribe. You can read chapter 18 tonight. It's in every free translation online. The R.H. Charles version is the one I use. It is short. A few verses, and when you reach the line about 7 stars like great burning mountains, bound in a place with no sky above and no ground below, you will know what Voyager found when it finally arrived at the edge. You will know what's sitting out there in the cold, generating heat it shouldn't have, holding a moon that orbits the wrong way, carrying the name of a sea god on a world where nothing is liquid. Was the scribe who wrote that passage mapping a theology or a geography? Is the fact that we named the thing we found out there after a sea god and a biblical monster an accident, or is it a memory of something older than the name? I keep not being able to close those questions. I'm not sure I'm supposed to.